equals better outcomes.
Are you tired of static? Wish you could take your favorite Virginia radio stations with you wherever you go? Then you need to discover the power of streaming. That's right. You can now easily listen to the Virginia Talk Radio Network for insightful discussions and local news.
From the VTRN News Center, I'm Bill Trefiro.
And groove to classic hits on Rewind 1039. All from your smartphone, tablet, or computer. No more fiddling with the dial. Just download your favorite radio app. Search for Virginia Talk Radio Network or Rewind 1039, and you're ready to go. Stay connected with your community.
Good morning. This is Kimberly McBroom in the WDBJ 7 Newsroom with our Virginia Talk Radio Network news update.
And enjoy the music you love, anytime, anywhere.
Every move you make.
Streaming the Virginia Talk Radio Network and Rewind 1039. It's that easy. Virginia Talk Radio Network, Rewind 1039. Now streaming.
You're listening to WVGM AM and FM Lynchburg, now powered by ESPN Radio and streaming on the VTRN Sports app.
Get more on the Sheeler Motor Mile, your trusted dealer serving Southwest Virginia and surrounding areas for over 50 years. With more selection, more value, and more finance options. Plus, your trade is worth more. Shop local and save more with straightforward pricing, plus exceptional service and selection. Your search ends at the Motor Mile. Choose from over 900 quality pre-owned vehicles, plus a massive selection of new car brands in Southwest Virginia. Honda, Hyundai, Toyota, Subaru, Kia, Chevrolet, Mitsubishi, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, and now Buick. Plus, the used car superstore. 12 new car brands, 900 used vehicles, one amazing buying experience. Volume selling means volume pricing, and we've got more than any other dealer in the area. The Sheeler Motor Mile delivers choices. Here's the difference. Sheeler owns the finance company and makes getting approved for credit simple and easy on the Motor Mile. Flexible financing options for every budget to get you on the road fast. Get more on the Sheeler Motor Mile with a certified friendly staff and no games, no gimmicks. The Sheeler Motor Mile, now in Christiansburg, Radford, and Pulaski. Call 866-SHEELER1. Always open at Sheeler.com.
Spring's here, finally. So visit Leesville Landscape Supplies for a slam dunk on your next home or business landscape project. Get the region's best mulch, plus decorative stone, propane, block, and hardscape materials, routine lawn care. Leesville Landscape Supplies has grass seed, fertilizer, straw, and topsoil, even hardwood mulch, dyed mulch, pine mulch, gravel, and sand. Start your spring project at Leesville Landscape Supplies at the corner of Water Lake and Leesville Road in Lynchburg, and pick there or have it delivered. Search 24/7 at LeesvilleLandscapes.com.
Plenty of large insurance companies know something. If you're injured in an auto accident, it can feel overwhelming. They've defended themselves in thousands of personal injury cases while you've never been there. Thankfully, I have. Hi, I'm Dustin Rosser with Trost Law. I began my legal career defending insurance companies before joining Trost Law. I know how insurance companies think and how to navigate the complex legal system. So if you're injured and need someone to fight for you, just call me at 777-HURT and visit trostlaw.com.
When you get a diagnosis of Parkinson's disease, things get real.
And nobody understands that better than the Parkinson's Foundation. We provide resources and support because there are things you can do to improve your quality of life. So, whether you're newly diagnosed, have been living with Parkinson's, or caring for a loved one,
find real answers at the Parkinson's Foundation.
Go to parkinson.org or call our helpline at 1-800-4PD-INFO.
When I deployed, I didn't realize that even the air I was breathing was dangerous. Since coming home, I've watched friends get sick and struggle to get the support they deserve. But now, that's finally changing. We're eligible for new VA healthcare and benefits based on when and where we serve. Even though I feel okay, I'm going to apply for my sake and for my family. Learn more and apply today. Visit va.gov/PACT.
You're stepping into the fast lane on the VTRN Sports app, 93.3 FM and 1320 AM Lynchburg, or by asking Alexa or Google Home, open VTRN Sports Lynchburg. Now, take the fast lane through the topics that matter across the Commonwealth. This is the Fast Lane with Ed Lane.
There's a fine line between being old school and being outdated. And you might think at times we're outdated because we're kind of old school here in the Fast Lane on the VTRN Sports app and 93.3 FM. VTRN Sports and Fast Lane, Ed Lane on the socials, Facebook Live, YouTube, however you listen to podcasts. We saw that today on the TroStall.com Fast Take. I did it from my middle school. Won't mention the names. They may or may not want you to call them if you experience a pregnancy, but at that point, it's probably a little bit too late. So maybe you should think about these things well before getting to that point. Just saying, if you know, and have driven around town and caught the clues. So I bring all of that up. And if you don't know, Fastlane, Ed Lane, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or at gmail.com. I bring all that up because said middle school, they were a sponsor of ours. I'm not even saying this, but said middle school taught Latin and classical languages. The theory behind that is not the worst thing in the world. My high school taught that as well. It helps with understanding other foreign languages. It certainly can assist in terms of word comprehension for standardized tests. Not that I did well on those. 1050, 1050. And then when I just decided to circle all the answers and figured that if I got one right and three wrong, it was still plus 0.25 points. So that's what we're going to do. I boosted my score by 60 points. 11-10. Back in the old 1600 SAT era. True story with that. So, you've got that theory. And I don't dispute that. But the same institution had the idea of you should speak Latin at school. Like, this is classic. Hey, people in charge just want to throw ridiculous, I'm going to curse in front of my kids for a second if they're listening, stupid ideas against the wall because you're entrepreneurial and you think people will bite it. And if you look ridiculous in hindsight, hey, you were trying it. Nobody should criticize you. Wrong. Ridiculous. But the idea of speaking it in school, it never took. Thank God it never did. And they didn't even offer spoken languages. My dad, who is as Christian conservative as it gets, even found flaw with the logic or lack thereof behind that. So that's part of the reason why we shifted schools from middle school to high school, because justifiably, I think, he thought it was important that we had access to spoken word languages because we were not going to go around speaking Latin in school or speaking Latin elsewhere. Again, old school and outdated. Old school, learn Latin for the SATs. It's harsh, but there's value to it. Outdated, let's try to speak this in school to make some entrepreneurial idea come to fruition. It never took. It never did take. It was never going to take. I bring all that up to say there's a lesson to this as well when it comes to the world of sports. The Virginia Cavaliers were in this spot. There's an old school way of coaching, old school way of teaching, an old school way of running a program in an organization where you are a hard coach, where you point out things that are not going well, where you don't sugarcoat the truth. And I believe you have to have that. But there's also an outdated way of thinking, which is dangle the carrot so far in advance, they never actually get validation, like the Bob Knight theory. Like that worked back in the 80s when no one could transfer. Good luck with that thought right now. There are other outdated elements. You can be confrontational. You can be stern. You can raise your voice, particularly around college and professional athletes, even high school. I see great high school coaches do it all the time. Part of the reason why we hired Ty Tracy from the morning warm-up, 7 to 8 a.m., right here on the VTR and Sports app at 93.3 FM, is because Brad Bradley was a coach. Brad Bradley coaches them hard. Loves them, but coaches them hard. That's his reputation. And it's resonated with kids for both success and development. And he's not the only coach, but he's the easiest example at the Virginia Talk Radio Network. There's a fine line between that and, reportedly, being abusive, crossing that line. And if you look at the reports from JerryRatcliffe.com, from the USA Today article that expanded upon that, if you listen to David Teal and Preston Willett discuss this on the latest, the Sabre podcast that they have for Virginia Athletics, they discussed it today. Like, all respected people have brought this up, that it crossed the line. At that point, you have to make a change, TJ, because you can be old school and stern, but when you get to the point of abusive, that's outdated and that has to go. And again, I'm not in the Virginia women's basketball program. I don't know. But when you come to that conclusion before the NCAA tournament run and follow through on it after the Sweet 16 run, it would lead you to believe that is the case, even though it's unlikely that we'll hear from Carla Williams because she doesn't generally speak much at all, especially on these topics outside of her own podcast where it's, pardon the expression here, but state media. And then when you get to the press conference, it's, hey, we don't want to talk about the past. We just want to speak to the new coach. And by the way, that's not just my criticism. Teal and Willett, and in particular Teal, brought that up earlier today. You can't give him a free pass and criticize us. And I'm not saying we're great, but we're not the only one saying this. David Teal is as respected as it gets, and he's pointing that out. it would be beneficial for people to maybe not know all the details, but for Virginia to be comfortable enough elaborating, even if it's just conduct detrimental to the program. That would be a big step forward. And it's not that you want to tarnish someone's legacy, but it's an element of, hey, we're okay with an old school hard coach coming into our program. People have mentioned Dawn Staley. I think it's a bit of a pipe dream, but never say never. If Alexis Ohanian wants to bankroll it, who knows? That could change real quick. People have mentioned Kenny Brooks. He had that reputation at Virginia Tech. I don't think it'll happen. I don't think he'll leave Kentucky, but boy, that would be a ton of fun if it did. Just from a storyline perspective, coming back to coach the arch rival. It'd be kind of like women's basketball version of Nick Saban going from LSU to Alabama and the rivals experience it. But to tie all a bow on this and to get your thoughts on this, TJ, I would say this. Old school is fine. I think you need that. But I'm not so old school that we need to be, like spanking our kids with sticks. Like we've done some raw beyond spankings back in the day.
Go
and
get your own switch.
Yeah, I mean, like we did that in our house. We've given a pop on the fanny when kids do something one too many times. But it's not, we're not going out and picking sticks out back. We're not going out and paddling our kids and beating them. Like there's a level of like, okay, you've got to use your discretion. And it's the same thing in coaching at a high level. I'm all for, being harsh, getting critical, pointing it out. You can raise your voice. You can direct kids to do sprints. You can do all those type of old school methods, but you can't get physically abusive. And if you're cycling through staff members the way that Coach Mox reportedly was, that's not a good sign. And I've been in the sales culture even longer than you have, TJ, and it's like the biggest turnoff of mine. Let's just hire 12 people knowing 11 of them are going to fail, and we're going to do that every time. We're going to make it a toxic culture. And then you're shocked that people don't trust your salespeople. Well, why would you? Like, why? So that again, it's a fine line between old school and outdated. And I will tip my cap to Virginia, even though we may never hear about it. It seemed like they had to make this call.
Yeah, and I just don't know if I'd go the Kenny Brooks route. There apparently had a toxic culture at Tech too. Now not the kind of stuff that I've heard with Mock, but I don't know. I don't know. Do you want to repeat that? Risk it?
I don't know a ton about that as much. Like I've heard a little bit of yours, but I also heard some of it is just it was more him and the administration.
Okay.
And if it's you and the administration, let's be real. A lot of those are clashes in terms of the amount of resources invested. And we've seen it with who's transferred from Virginia Tech women's basketball and the fact that you lose Mackenzie Nelson, you lose Karis Baker, that maybe you can replace with similar production on a lower cost and you have to ball on a budget, quote unquote.
Yeah.
But that's business. When it comes to your employees and the people underneath you, that's an entirely different level. Like, again, I'm kind of I wouldn't call it middle management, but, there are times, Gary and I agree on a lot of things, but there are times where we disagree. And ultimately, it's his business. And, he's the majority owner of the Virginia Talk Radio Network, and what he say goes. But I'll voice my opinion. We've had times where we disagree, and I realize, hey, at the end of the day, if it's his call, it's his business, it's his call, it's his name on it. Totally get that. But that does not impact how I treat TJ, Ty, Trey, everything about that. I have to be able to separate that. When you assume a leadership position, you have to be okay and be comfortable making those differences and making those separations. And that is where I think a lot of this has to go if you're looking at a place like Virginia Tech from the Kenny Brooks era. Again, I think the issues there seem like they were more Brooks versus the administration and the access to resources. And Kentucky could provide more, and they're in the SEC, and they're a committed basketball school. Virginia maybe could provide even more with Alexis Ohanian if he really wants to get behind it, with how much he's worth. And his wife is Serena Williams, who's a big advocate for female sports. And they both invest very heavily in that. And I think it's awesome that they do. But maybe this is a passion project for both of them as well, of Virginia women's basketball. And I mean, hey, I don't hate him on that. Cody Campbell's done it for pretty much every Texas Tech sport. And they all of a sudden become good because he cares about them all. So maybe you get that realization there. But I think for Virginia, you had to make this, you had to understand where the line was drawn. And I will tip my cap and say they didn't let a miracle, I would call it a miracle, but it's a pleasant surprise run to the Sweet 16 deter the overall vision for a basketball program, even if they've had challenges finding the right coach in Carla Williams' area. And as Hootie pointed out yesterday, Fastlane Headline, where you listen to podcasts, this is supposed to be Carla's expertise as a former women's basketball player herself.
Yeah, I agree. I like the way they handled it, and they didn't let it damper the success that UVA has had in all sports so far this year. So I do think they could have kept it going and be like, she did take us to the Sweet 16, so let's keep her around. No, they were like, hey, this isn't cool. I'm sorry, but you got to go, even if it means we have to redo the whole program.
No doubt. You have to know when to draw the line on a particular situation. And there's a level of greater talent or better results equals greater tolerance. But there's also a point where even when you are producing, certain things just can't be tolerated. And it's a fine line with that. And, it really is in regards to that. And it's understanding where you can push and maybe step over it a little bit and where you're just flat out crossing it and it becomes a real concern. Meanwhile, when we return to the fast lane, we cross the line to look at the Liberty Flames. Jon Manson from ASeaRed.com slated to join us next in the fast lane. Olympic sports update, the big women's basketball brouhaha, all that can come tomorrow. But in the meantime, LU spring football talk, LU diamond action talk next in the fast lane.
Mark Dalton here with Terry Volkswagen. Get ready to fall head over heels for the perfect VW SUV. One size doesn't fit all, though, and that's why Volkswagen has an SUV for everyone. From the compact and affordable Volkswagen Taos to the tech-packed Tiguan and the spacious Volkswagen Atlas. No matter which one fits your lifestyle, you'll love the comfort, performance, and safety. Stop by Terry Volkswagen on Forest Road in Lynchburg or check us out online at terrybw.com. Terry Volkswagen. You'll love our cars.
Hi, I'm Chuck from Aquatrack Adventures in Salem. The Virginia Talk Radio Network and InsaneRadioDeals.com have helped our company grow by sharing our company's message throughout Central and Southside Virginia. The gift cards and experiences sold on InsaneRadioDeals.com have brought us many new customers. If you're a business that wants to grow with a message that resonates and gets results, I highly recommend InsaneRadioDeals.com and the Virginia Talk Radio Network. Simply put, it works.
When you walk into Haley's, you see the size and selection of a big box store. Over 19,000 square feet of appliances and mattresses. Leading appliances like KitchenAid, Whirlpool, Maytag, Genair, Speed Queen, GE, and Monogram. And mattresses like Sealy, Serta, and Tempur-Pedic. So what's the difference? A family, locally owned business. And a staff committed to servicing you over the entire life of the product. That means before, during, and well after your purchase. Visit Haley's today, just off Ward Road in Lynchburg. Haley's, quality that counts.
Spring's here, finally. So visit Leesville Landscape Supplies for a slam dunk on your next home or business landscape project. Get the region's best mulch, plus decorative stone, propane, block, and hardscape materials for routine lawn care. Leesville Landscape Supplies has grass seed, fertilizer, straw, and topsoil, even hardwood mulch, dyed mulch, pine mulch, gravel, and sand. Start your spring project at Leesville Landscape Supplies at the corner of Water Lake and Leesville Road in Lynchburg. And pick there or have it delivered. Search 24/7 at LeesvilleLandscapes.com.
If you own a diesel truck or diesel fleet, it's time to go wicked and get serviced for the spring. And when you go wicked, take 25% off your service request for a limited time. Wicked Diesel in Bedford will allow 25% off a transmission flush, coolant flush, oil change, differential service, or AC service. Your choice. Just tell Josh you want that 25% off service special. Download the coupon at wickeddieselva.com. Need diesel repair? Go wicked.
Whether you're facing a tough season or looking for support to overcome life's obstacles, Central Virginia Counseling is here for you. Central Virginia Counseling is accepting new clients at both Lynchburg locations on Wigington Road and Timberlake Road. And telehealth is available anywhere in Virginia. Serving children, teens, and adults, our counselors are equipped with diverse skill sets to help you on your journey. For more information, visit us at centralvirginiacounseling.com.
Lunchtime just got an upgrade. Stop by Macadoo's for our $8.95 weekday special and grab a legendary sandwich at an unbeatable price. Choose from your favorite classics to Coney Island, Betty Bop, Ragtime, or Stogie. Classic sandwiches packed with savory meats and flavors in between fresh bread. Make it a meal by pairing your sandwich with a sidekick, a warm cup of soup, or crispy chips. Great food, cozy vibes, and the best deal in town.
It's time to share, breaking down fun. Just to be there, the only one. Just to be there and mark the dues.
We'll see you at the dues.
We are making it happen at the Used Car Superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile, your premier used car dealer serving Southwest Virginia and surrounding areas for over 50 years. With the best selection, value, finance options, and exceptional service. Plus 900 pre-owned vehicles all in one location. Volume selling means volume pricing, and we've got the volume. The Used Car Superstore is your one-stop for most makes and models. Cars, trucks, vans, SUVs. Many have miles in the teens, remaining factory warranties, and some are even local one-owner vehicles. vehicles. Plus, Sheeler owns the finance company. Getting approved for credit is easy on the Motor Mile with finance options for every budget. 900 used vehicles in stock now. More than any other dealer in the area. Hurry in for straightforward pricing and more inventory arriving daily. Why wait? Make it happen at the Used Car Superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile, your premier family-owned car dealer serving Southwest Virginia and surrounding areas for 50 years. I-81 exit 118C in Christiansburg. Call 866-SHEELER1. Always open at Sheeler.com.
Do you love the 80s? Whether you were Team Madonna or Prince, this night is for you. Hi, I'm Kelly Diaz with Casa of Central Virginia, inviting you to Retro Rewind, our totally rad 80s party for a great cause. Join us April 11th from 6 to 10 at the Boonesboro Ruritan Club for an awesome 80s DJ, arcade games, dance floor, and more. Best of all, every ticket helps CASA volunteers advocate for children who have experienced abuse or neglect in our community. Grab your friends, moonwalk over to cvcasa.org, and get your tickets before they're gone.
Hi, this is Zach Mackey, the voice of Virginia Tech men's basketball. You're listening to The Fast Lane with Ed Lane and Trey Lyle. Join the chat at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram.
The start. It's not the end, but it's a good start for Liberty Flames men's basketball in the transfer portal. And that's what we discuss right now is Jon Manson, founder and contributor for SCFRide.com. Back with us once again in the Fast Lane. John, I pray that you and your family had a wonderful resurrection weekend and y'all are refreshed and recharged. Liberty, they have taken steps to refresh their roster. Your impression so far on the first two additions from the transfer portal, Dylan Clausen and Sean Register, who don't solve the backcourt problem, but look like the Flames could be taller while still being athletic in the post and wing.
Yeah, I mean, Clausen, a D2, all-conference player, and Register a similar type of success at the JUCO level. Both of them averaging, double-figure points and, 6 to 8 rebounds a game. Both of them 6'7", 6'8", forwards. It's definitely a good start. And knowing the track record for Coach McKay and this staff of this level of success they've had on players coming from the lower levels, Division II or JUCO, you can look at J.J. Harper this past season. Previous years, obviously Talon Peter, who's in the NBA now, and Javon Mothmer, and you can go back even further. Keenan Gums was a key piece of that 2019 conference champion team and team that picked up the win the first round of the NCAA tournament over Mississippi State. So McKay's definitely been able to have an eye for that type of talent, and knowing how many roster spots the Liberty had. 6 of them going into, before adding these two, so obviously 4 now on the official opening day of the transfer portal for Division I men's basketball players. Getting, commitments from 2 like they were able to before you even got to this point of the calendar where, like I said, there's still 4 roster spots available. And, we've talked about it before, with Brett Decker going to the portal, Liberty's losing virtually its entire team from last season. Only 2, R.J. Jones and Xander Carter that played any meaningful minutes throughout the season that are returning. And even those 2, 7th and 8th man respectively. So there's going to be a lot of new faces to this team, and Clausen and Register are certainly 2 pieces that you would expect to factor into the rotation, if not starting lineup, and maybe even top contributors for next season.
I know they haven't officially signed, but we'll put that to the side since all indications are Dylan Clausen and Sean Register are the first 2 of the potential 6 additions from the transfer portal for Liberty men's basketball that came unofficially before the portal officially opened today. You laugh at my snarky insertions there if you wish. John, what does this do for Liberty in terms of having a couple of guys that are basically in the fold? Now you can't take forever, but you can at least take a little bit of time to make sure you get the right fits that you can build around them, including what Coach McKay seems to like, background checks and character references.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly gives you something to go off of, and also a selling factor. I mean, if you're out there talking to a potential, guard that you expect to start, which, I think Liberty certainly needs at least one, if not multiple guards for next year's team, is you can say, hey, look, we've already got these forwards in place, and they're going to be ready to go, and we're still looking to go get some more. But, and like we talked about with Decker last week and previous weeks is, it's not a surprise that Decker went to the portal, and even more so knowing that he didn't even know who was going to be on his team if he returned. I mean, Liberty's got an entire new team, lots of roster openings. But, for Coach McKay and his staff, it gives a lot of flexibility, too, as you go into the portal. And now as they're able to contact a bunch of Division I portal entries starting today, I'm sure you'll start to hear news of guys that are linked to Liberty and potentially taking visits and maybe even getting some commitments here in the coming few days. It gives you a lot of flexibility of who you can go after, and start to have a few bargaining pieces as well too. And obviously there's NIL deals and stuff going on behind the scenes as well too. Liberty's got a budget to work with, and being able to fill in a couple of those slots, knowing how much those guys are going for, gives you the freedom and flexibility to say, okay, now we know who else we can go after and what our budget can be for those players as well too.
It is worth your subscription to the seaofred.com website, in particular for mailbag Q&As and the club pass that you can get. By the way, we've got them on special at insaneradiodeals.com as part of our 420 special. Check it out. The graphic will make total sense there. But one of the questions that was asked was about the Liberty Flames defensive line and the challenges of having a good defensive line the last couple of years. Do you give a little bit of grace from last year's defensive line, 2025, because of the amount of players lost in the portal? And does that heighten your desire to see them as spring practice continues to unfold, and in particularly whatever we get out of the showcase next Saturday over at Williams Stadium?
Yeah, I mean, the defensive line has certainly been an area of concern or even weakness, if you could say, for Liberty under Coach Chadwell. And you'd have to go back to the end of the Hugh Freeze era when Liberty had some, talented, not to say these guys aren't talented here, but guys that could play at the next level. I think of like a Darrell Johnson and a Jesse Lemonnier and others at that level, where Liberty had some of the top pass rushers at its level, whether it's, one of the top FCS programs or transitioning into the FBS at the G5 level. And Liberty really hasn't had that. And I think a lot of it has been due to the transfer portal. I mean, guys like TJ Bush, one of the first signees Liberty had under Coach Chadwell, a guy that was committed to Chadwell at Coastal Carolina before he, made the switch over to Liberty. And he brought Bush with him, and Bush stayed here for 2 years and then left. One of those guys that left in the spring, and kind of, has left that room bare. And I don't think it's by choice. I mean, you can look at Coach Chadwell's success previously, most recently, obviously, at Coastal Carolina, and some of the names that he coached on that defensive line, guys that went on to have professional careers or even transfer up to, P4s and have some success there as well, too. And unfortunately, it just hasn't worked out for him so far at Liberty. And, I don't think it's for a lack of trying. I mean, Liberty's, gone after players through the portal, whether it's been guys that have dropped down from the P4 ranks or moving up from FCS or D2, and just hasn't worked out for whatever reason. So I think it's one of, everybody says it, defensive line, quarterback, offensive line, those are your most important positions. And, having a true rush in is something that's going to go for a lot of money. So, a guy like a TJ Bush, like I mentioned, is going to be able to get into the portal and command a lot of money. And Bush is a guy, speaking of him, he was at California last year. Well, now he's moved into the portal again and landed at Minnesota. So, defensive line is something that we're certainly going to keep our eyes on this spring. And Liberty does have a few returning players there, but also some newcomers. And these are guys that are coming from, Division II and Division III ranks. And we'll just have to see how they, transfer, no pun intended there, but how they translate to being able to play at Liberty and at the FBS level, and can they hold up, because you don't have time to wait, like if you're a high school signee and you can wait a year or two and put some weight on. But if you're coming in as a transfer, you got to be expected to play immediately. Because, obviously if you have success, you can go back into the portal and try to transfer up as well too. So defensive line's a key piece for Liberty. And I think right now you have to say it's at least a question mark, if not a weakness, going into the 2026 season.
Jon Manson with us here in the Fast Lane from AseaofRed.com, who's hanging out with us today. John, great to be speaking with you. We would go a little bit longer, but we ironically are getting ready to give way to Liberty at Virginia Tech in baseball on the diamond. We will talk about that some. Softball versus baseball. We also owe your thoughts and discussions on the High Point Liberty matchup for not midnight on the mountain, but midnight to open the season in basketball. But alas, we tease that. We table that for next time. And we appreciate your time, a little bit more brief than normal today in the Fast Lane.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me on, Ed. Talk to you soon.
Our pleasure. Jon Manson from AseaofRed.com with us here in the Fast Lane. By the way, one more thing before we get ready to turn it over to Virginia Tech. Baseball, they host Liberty. Talia Goodman breaking the news. Virginia hiring Richmond's Aaron Roussel as their next women's basketball coach to replace Coach Mox. I'd imagine they already had started vetting candidates and doing discussions before this past Saturday. I don't pretend to be a women's basketball expert, but Richmond was a regular. Lady Spiders were in the NCAA women's basketball tournament. And because of that, it seems like this is a logical move for them.
Yeah, he's had great success at Richmond. They've been consistent, great hire, local hire, technically.
Technically, it is. It's a good hire for them. It's one that puts them in the right spot to be able to overcome this. I don't know enough about Aaron Roussel on a personal level to be able to provide that type of commentary and that type of expertise. Perhaps we'll dig into that more, have some more info tomorrow in the Fast Lane. In the meantime, on to Liberty in Tech Baseball.
Is a Play Fly presentation of the Virginia Tech Sports Network.